Women and men of the 515 email. I hope this week's Howzit video finds you doing well. This week we're going to talk about Nodal Lightning Pacific along with a little bit about how we take risk. So Nodal Lightning Pacific. Many of you won't remember, but back in 1991, the U.S. Went to war with Iraq. And it's not the type of Iraq that you think of when we think of the battles that many of you and I fought in from 2003 on. But actually, at that time, Iraq was the fourth largest army in the world. It was a combat-tested opponent. All right, they'd been at war multiple times with Iran. It was a modern army, and should have been one of those things that was expected to be a significant conflict. And frankly, it wasn't. It was an excellent demonstration of how the U.S. way of war had outpaced the rest of the world, and how we were prepared to go to war in a way that no other army, no other nation had been prepared. So those that would be our adversaries really took note of what were the key lessons learned from that conflict. It included things such as stealth technology. It included precision-guided munitions. And one that we don't spend enough time talking about is our logistics ability. It is something that we are absolutely outstanding at, that we as logistics professionals, in your job that you do day in and day out, do in a manner that no other nation can come close to. And that is part of the American way of war, the idea that I'm going to bring preferably hope, and some sort of aid that may be required during a time of need or some other contingency, but also strength, when required. So if we need to move combat force forward in order to stop another combat force, that's what we do, and we do so very well. And nobody thought that we could bring the type of combat power forward that we did then and that we still do today. So knowing that, our adversaries have spent the last 30 years saying, hey, how do we defeat that in the future? If we're going to win in a conflict against the United States, how do we keep them within the time and space that we need to accomplish our task as an adversary? How do we set it up so that they're not able to do their task of logistics? And that's what Nodal Lightning Pacific is all about. This is recognition by us as the logistics professionals, as those mobility airmen who are in the Indo-Pacific, that doing logistics in wartime is going to be doing logistics in peacetime. And we need to understand what those differences are. And you see that when we go through and we start talking about how does logistics in a contested environment work. How are we going to go ahead and do our day-to-day mission that we don't normally do in our Suburni gear, in Suburni gear, and those sorts of tasks. So that's part of why this is important. One of the other things you'll hear folks talk about is, in order to do this, we need to figure out how to better understand risk, or to take risk. One thing I want to be very clear about, a lot of people, you'll say, well, we need to take risk, and they say, well, we're taking risk, throw the book away, book doesn't matter anymore. That's not it at all right? When we talk about taking risk, what we're talking about here is saying we understand that the way we've been doing business might not be the right way to do business in the future for the type of combat operations we need to do. As such, we may need to educate and train slightly differently. We may need to rewrite some of the things that are in the book, but we don't just throw away the book and all of the experience that goes with it. It would be no different than saying, hey, you're a subject matter expert in the job and we're going to throw all that away and go do the job entirely different. The book is there for a reason. There's a lot of really smart people who inform that. The problem is the way we're doing logistics in the future is changing, so we need to inform the way to go forward with that. In order to make that happen, we have to empower people at lower levels. We have to give them an understanding of this is their authority, and frankly, I need you to act violently within your authorities. And when something's outside of your authority, you need to be able to communicate that to higher and say, hey, here's what I need to do, here's the risk associated with doing it, and here's the risk if we don't do it. And to be able to communicate that through your squadron leadership up into the wing, and then I communicate risks to my bosses all the time as well. So that's just part of the job. All right, so Nodal Lightning Pacific, get excited about it. Should be a great time, and enjoy the good parts with it. Yeah, there'll be a bit of a grind with it too, but that's okay. Along with that, if we are focusing on something that you don't think is the right thing, communicate that up too. I am not going to say that I'm the only subject matter expert in the room, because I know I'm not. So you all are subject matter experts too. You know your job. I think you understand what are some of the tasks that we need to get at in order to be able to do our day-to-day job in a wartime environment. But bring those up and say, hey, no, we need to think more about this, or our next Nodal Lightning iteration, we need to be spending more time focusing on these aspects, whatever it may be. We want that feedback too, because this Howzit, the whole point of this is it should be a conversation within our wing. So take advantage of that conversation. With that said, please continue to wash your hands, wear your mask, keep your social distancing, get smart about the COVID vaccine. I will tell you, the COVID-19 vaccine is our #1 way to beat this. So understand it, get educated on it, inform those around you who aren't educated on it. And if you don't have access to the information, let your supervisor know or let me know, and we will get you in contact with a medical professional who can give you good resources and good information, or just talk you through it. But more importantly than anything here, take care of each other. So enjoy getting after Nodal Lightning Pacific. Look forward to hearing all your folks' feedback on how we can continue to make it better. And with that, press